Welcome back to another episode of the Empire State. Oh, here we go again. I thought we left this behind the last episode. I am your host, Stacey Carter II, speaking in melancholy tone right now. I'm joined by Teddy and Tommy, and we got a nice episode. We got to talk about some things, some challenging things with these three teams going forward into 2025. Let's start with the New York Yankees. They are right now in spring training. Obviously, we know the story. They came up short in the World Series last year against the Dodgers. They lost a lot of pieces, including Juan Soto, but they also gained some pieces as well, especially on their pitching rotation, bringing in Max Fried. Let's just break down the Yankees, and we're going to start with you, Teddy, because you are the Yankees fan.
Yeah.
What is their biggest challenge they have to overcome this season in order to get back to the World Series and actually win it?
Yeah. I'd say two things. One, you definitely have to replace the bat of Juan Soto, at least the consistency and the production. That dude is either getting on base or getting close to getting on base almost every at bat. And he's a lot more disciplined at the plate than, say, someone like Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, by no means, like he had a very good year last year. 58 home runs, 144 RBIs. Like, no doubt that's a great year. But he also struck out 171 times. The dude cannot hit a curveball. So Juan Soto, on the other hand, struck out 52 less times than Aaron Judge. So there's more discipline at the plate. And he's someone that when you have people on base, you could count on him to maybe get on base, get a hit, sac fly, anything like that. So you're going to have to replace that. And they also lost Anthony Rizzo. I know they replaced him with Paul Goldschmidt, I believe. But again, like the Yankees bats, when it comes postseason time, they're just very inconsistent. Juan Soto was a consistent piece of that, but unfortunately, he wasn't enough. So the Yankees either got to replace that with a consistent bat or to just be more consistent themselves. The other thing is closing the games off with relief pitching. Last year, they had Clay Holmes, which he's now on the Mets. He, in his 67 regular season games, only had 30 saves. So not super efficient, but they did sign Devin Williams recently, who I don't think had a full year under his belt last year pitching, or at least he pitched a lot less. But he had 14 saves in 22 games, so a lot more efficient. So the Yankees did fill that need when they lost it, and hopefully they will be able to close out those games, because I'm sure that when teams get back into the game, whether it's in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning against Yankees, it puts that pressure on the Yankees batters to try to get back into it. And that's when they flop and the inconsistency starts. Those are at least my two big needs.
I want to emphasize your point about batting, because that's what I have in my notes. I don't think one bat can replace Juan Soto, but they have to do it by committee. And it won't be easy, because me personally, I don't trust the Yankees bats outside of Aaron Judge, who himself had a shaky postseason last season. They got players like Cody Bellinger, DJ LeMahieu, Paul Goldschmidt now, by name, pretty decent players career-wise. But if you look at their numbers the last few seasons, let's start with Cody Bellinger. The reason why Dodgers let him go, he's inconsistent. He's been up and down. He'll hit 275, then he'll drop down to 208.
Yeah.
That's something that the Yankees can't afford, especially in postseason. DJ LeMahieu, Paul Goldschmidt, been great their whole career. But the last few seasons, both of them, their bats, especially their batting average, have declined. And then if you go back to last year, look at the stats, the Yankees led the league in home runs, but they were 11th in batting average. Yeah. So, you know, and then they lost like 5 of the last 6 top home run hitters from last year, especially Torres, who went to the Tigers.
Yep. Yeah.
These players got to step up. And we talking about those 3 players that I named above 30. 30 and above.
And really quickly before you share, Tommy, like Giancarlo Stanton, for example, one of my favorite players on the Yankees. But even though he's a power hitter, he's super inconsistent. He's in like the 230s in his batting average too. So not a lot of consistency from his bat either. They needed him to get going, especially to replace the production of Juan Soto.
Yeah, they need him to get healthy first.
Exactly. He's not even on the field most of the season.
Right.
Or at least for a third of the season. So
well, what you think about that?
I also think, like, just to be fair, I think the pitching was like really, really good last year. Like batting averages across baseball were down. So like, sure, they struggled. And they do have two really big home run hitters, and typically that's kind of like you hit a home run or you strike out type situation, but they are still really good bats. And Jazz Chisholm is back. He played really well in the playoffs last year after they acquired him. I think the main challenge that this team is going to face is like they have all the pieces. It's just getting over that hump that they haven't been able to do yet. But I think that they got the guys in the locker room. Obviously, Stanton and Judge have never won a World Series before, and I think that that is going to motivate them more than anything. And they can't get complacent of like, it's a new year. We got all the way to the World Series last year. We couldn't get it done. Like they have to restart that whole process now. I think that some teams, they kind of get to that point and then they can't get back there because it's so hard to do. But since, obviously baseball is baseball and the Yankees can spend as much money as they want, they can get back to that mountaintop. And they do have the pieces in place to do it with those star players. I think that the pitching, like you guys mentioned, has gotten better. That was a major thing. And I think that this team probably will find its way back to the World Series. But it's just in that locker room, can they get overall the like mundane, like they play 400 games in a season and you got to get all the way through the playoffs again and get back to that World Series. I think that'll be the biggest challenge.
Let me ask you this as somebody that watches the Yankees closely. If you have to point to one person in the batting side of things to step up, or you looking to step up outside of Aaron Judge and to a certain extent, Giancarlo Stanton, who would you point to?
I mean, kind of like you said, they've been bringing in some new bats. Cody Bellinger. I mean, he's a big name that they brought in, and you said his batting average dipped down to 209. It'd be nice to see him step it up and pick it up because he has shown some promise. He is another powerful bat when he gets going, but I think he's going to be the one that needs to step up. I don't know where he's going to fall in the rotation right now, like the batting order. I could see him being like 5 or 6 or something like that, and like someone like that needs to really step up. Perhaps Paul Goldschmidt too. I mean, he's a little older, but they're trying to basically replace the big bat of Anthony Rizzo. So, and Rizzo struggled too at times with his batting average. So I'm hoping that those two guys will really pick it up. We'll have to see.
Yeah, my vote will be for Cody Bellinger because, he's seen the postseason before. Yeah. He has hit big time in the postseason before. And that's where my concerns lie. Not even regular season. I think, like you were alluding to, regular season wise, the Yankees going to be great. Injuries, health is always a thing, but that's for any team. Yeah. But postseason, I'm just worried about that. Like last year showed me that you outside of Giancarlo Stanton, the bad averages were down in the low 200s. So and then you bring in players who are hitting in the middle or low 200s. So it seemed like to me like the batting order has taken a step back a little bit from last year. But if they get hot at the right time, I think they can go back to the World Series. And I think they can win the World Series. I know you said they have the talent to win the World Series, but is that your projection for the Yankees World Series?
I think Cleveland's going to have something to say about it. I think Atlanta's going to have something to say about it. But I do think that, like you said, barring any major injuries, that they are the favorite to get back there. Now, Juan Soto's on the other side now, so it would be pretty sweet for him to, not that he has any bad blow with the Yankees, but to be able to win against the Yankees in the World Series, I think that would be pretty cool too.
Are you banking on the Subway Series in the World Series?
I know that a lot of people were hoping for it last year. I think it would be pretty sweet for Juan Soto to get back there to play the Yankees and then beat the Yankees. It'll justify that he made the right decision to leave the Yankees. Otherwise,
that $700 million was the right decision.
Yeah, no, of course.
Although it wasn't that much less for the Yankees. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it's nice for Juan Soto. He's got a lot less pressure on him, say, than Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, who've never won a World Series. He won a World Series in 19. And so, but again, I think that would be really sweet for him if he won. And for Mets fans, I mean, they've been dying for it. They did get Pete Alonso back, as we've discussed. So it seems like the morale's pretty high in New York. One last thing I'll say is that health, as you guys have said, is so important. Hopefully Garrett Cole will have a full healthy year to help them carry through the playoffs. Because I mean, he's a great pitcher, but he had to kind of get back on get his stride back towards the end of the year. So hopefully he has a full year under his belt and he carries that into potentially the World Series.
Yeah, he's allowed to grow his hair now, his facial hair.
Yeah, hopefully. You know what? We were discussing this before. we start recording. Maybe they just missing beards.
That could be the answer.
That could be the
especially with Garrett Cole, because he looks way better with a beard. He looks weird without a beard. So
we gonna keep a lookout for the facial hair with the Yankees. We're gonna see if that makes a difference. But let's move on to the middle level, which is the New York Jets. We already know they're gonna move on from Aaron Rodgers. He's gonna get cut. Now, we already know the other story. They brought in DaVante Adams to compliment Aaron Rodgers, to boost them up, try to get them on a winning streak. Unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
With Aaron Rodgers gone, should they cut or try to trade DaVante Adams?
I feel like it's too soon to tell right now because you don't know what the quarterback position is going to look like. I still think DaVante Adams is good. I'm not saying he's like a top tier receiver anymore per se, but like it's also hard to like say that because he went from Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew to I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers anymore. So it's kind of tough to say that he's really fallen off that much. He still has elite route running ability, separation, all that. And towards the end of the season, they kind of started to figure it out, which messed up their draft position. So it depends for me. Like if they draft a rookie quarterback, I don't think DaVante wants to rebuild again. He's 32. Receivers don't have that long of a lifespan in the NFL. So I don't know if he really wants to rebuild fully again with the Jets. So he might want out. If Aaron Rodgers gets a starting job somewhere, then he might want to go wherever he goes. Or if Aaron Rodgers retires, then he's probably just going to want to try to find a contending team. But maybe the Jets surprise us and sign a veteran like Sam Darnold or Russ, and DaVante, buys back in and thinks maybe we have a shot. So at this point, I feel like it's too early to tell, but I feel like kind of based on the way the quarterback position goes dictates what they should do with DaVante.
To be honest, I prefer them moving on from DaVante Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Like we already said, Aaron Rodgers is going to be gone. We know Aaron Glenn is the new coach. He's bringing in a new staff. This is his first year being a head coach. I think that they should just start over, rebuild the team in Aaron Glenn's image, and go from there. I don't think they should go too deep, cut too deep, and get rid of Garrett Wilson because you're going to need somebody. But, yeah, I think Adams, with him being 32, barely getting over 1,000 yards, which, I mean, that's still a good accomplishment, but barely getting over 1,000 yards, 85 receptions, which is a dip down from previous seasons where he was over 100. He should go to a contending team, a team that's need a complimentary wide receiver. One team I got in mind right now is the Commanders. Pair him with Terry McLaurin.
I like that.
Yeah, give another veteran presence for Jaden Daniels. I don't know what the asking price will be for DaVante Adams. Do you ask for a second and a third? Or, I mean, I don't think he's worth the first round pick for our trade.
Not at 32.
What did the Jets trade to get him? Was it a 5th round pick? Or was it
I think it was something like that. Yeah, it was like one of the middle rounds.
So something like that. Or they could just cut him.
Well, yeah, or they can just cut him.
Because he's got guaranteed money.
I mean, but I'm always on the train of you want to seek a trade first before you cut a player because you want some type of asset back.
Yeah. I don't know what the salary situation is. Like if they cut him, do they still have to pay part of his guaranteed money, or if they trade him, whatever that? I feel like that kind of plays an important role in it.
Yeah. And I read somewhere that the Jets going to have dead money of $49 million coming off Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
The short answer is yes. I think they should move on. Really, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like as much as the Jets may want to move on from DaVante Adams, I feel like DaVante Adams would want to move on from the Jets, especially if Aaron Rodgers is not there. It seems like that DaVante Adams, over the trajectory of his career, he goes where he's comfortable. Aaron Rodgers being one of those people, but also Derek Carr. Like he went to the Raiders, and as soon as the Raiders had that whole debacle pulling Derek Carr, he got pretty unhappy pretty quickly. So he is either A, going to want to follow Aaron Rodgers, and maybe, this might be a hot take, but I could see Aaron Rodgers personally at this stage of his career going somewhere like Las Vegas to the Raiders. They still draft a quarterback, maybe Shador, and
DaVante goes back.
And then DaVante goes back. I mean, that sounds crazy, but they're doing.
Yeah, I think that door is closed, Teddy.
Maybe. But I'm just saying, like, don't rule it out because Pete Carroll, he has success in the NFL. He might have some success with Aaron Rodgers and DaVante there. But then at the same time, they draft a young quarterback like Shador, sit him behind Aaron Rodgers for a year and then bring him in. And plus, Aaron Rodgers is old. He could get hurt. Shador could come in and back him up. But at the same time, I do agree with you. I do think that DaVante Adams, if that doesn't happen, if he doesn't go like wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, especially like Aaron Rodgers is probably going to want to play for a contender. So if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go to a contender, doesn't get picked up, of course he could go back and play with Derek Carr, but the Saints aren't really a contender either right now. So I think he would go to another contender. Commanders is a good idea, but honestly, when I was thinking about it, my mind went to the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's had a stellar year the last couple seasons. I mean, 40 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions last year. And that was without a receiver one caliber of DaVante Adams. Yes, he's a little older, but I think that the Ravens do have younger guys at receiver like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, who would be good complements to DaVante Adams. You know, they're establishing the run game well with Derrick Henry. DaVante Adams could be a really good threat in the play action. So that's what I would say. Maybe even the Bills could be in the running. You never know. They're looking for a receiver one or another big receiver like DaVante. So, but the short answer, yes, I think the Jets are going to move on. They'd rather stick with somebody like Garrett Wilson, who has more career longevity at this point.
I think first, before they even think about what they're going to do with DaVante Adams, they need to figure out quickly what is their direction at quarterback.
Yeah.
Are they going to try to gamble in the draft, or like you were mentioning, bring in a veteran? Maybe Sam Darnold wants to return to New York and complete his redemption arc in a way. It's going to be tough because they got the 7th overall pick. The top 2 quarterbacks clearly right now is Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. They're going to be gone before 7. So if you just, do you gamble and try to trade up in the draft, or do you go after a veteran like you were mentioning, Russell Wilson, even Justin Fields, who's also a free agent too? And I'm sorry about that for your team.
I mean, I feel like one of Russ or Justin Fields will be back with the Steelers. And also, DaVante going to the Ravens would make me so sad. I've seen him going to the Ravens, Debo going to the Ravens, Tyree going to the Ravens. If any of that happens, we don't mention. But I feel like with the Jets at quarterback, you're going to have to trade at least a first round pick in addition to like your current pick to be able to move up to take one of those guys. And I just don't believe in Shedeur or Cam Ward enough to spend 2 first round picks on a guy like that. I know that you need a quarterback to win in this league. But I just don't think that giving up that much assets is worth it for those guys. I would rather take a flyer on Justin Fields if I was the Jets, because I feel like he still has a lot of room to grow. He's only 25 years old. But I don't know. They got, like you said, they got to make a decision at some point here soon. They might know internally what they're going to do already. They're just waiting to get closer to the draft, and we see all these guys at the combine and pro days and stuff like that. But maybe you take like a Jalen Milroe or a Will Howard later in the draft, and have him sit behind like a Jameis or somebody if you bring a veteran in to be like a stopgap quarterback. But I don't know. Like, they have a good defense. They have a good running back. They have a good wide receiver in Garrett Wilson. And they also got a great left tackle in Olu Fashanu. Shout out. So I don't know. They got to figure out the quarterback position, though, because like we've seen with all the teams that in this league that didn't perform very well this year, that's the most important position, no doubt.
What you think they should do at quarterback? Go the veteran route or go try to hit in the draft?
I think because of the quarterback class we have, it would be quite a gamble to move up. So if you're going to draft a quarterback, they're probably going to have to draft some guys, like you said, Jaden Milroe or Will Howard, be Kyle McCord. You never know. Yeah, I mean, one thing I was thinking of is like, of course, quarterback is their biggest need, but like, what other position do they need to fill besides the quarterback that's going to help them win? Like, do they need more ammunition on the offensive side to help? Because that's the thing. You bring in someone like Justin Fields, and yeah, you have Garrett Wilson, but you're going to lose DaVante Adams most likely. So, like, do you need to go out there and get another receiver to help him? Yes, you have a good left tackle.
You definitely need more O-line help, though.
That's what I was going to say.
Aaron Rodgers was getting hit a lot.
Exactly. So I'm thinking that, you should probably invest in offensive line with that pick in the draft. I know my team, the Arizona Cardinals, that's what we need desperately, is an offensive line. We also need a defensive line.
And a real quarterback.
Well, I will say this. I think if you have a good offensive line, Kyler Murray can do well. When he's running for his life, that's when he doesn't play well. I mean, he can run, but when he's under pressure, he just bows the ball up, and it's like a free-for-all. But anyways, so I definitely think it is such a gamble to try to move up and give away assets. I wouldn't do it if I were the Jets, especially because they still have a lot to figure out.
Kyler Murray, I want to apologize for that stray that you just caught from Tommy Rooney. It
He
was
knows.
Yeah.
very, very uncomfortable.
Yes, I apologize to you too, Kyle.
I'm sure you're a great person. It has nothing to do with you personally.
The Steelers would take them if they could.
I would have.
Yeah.
I would much rather have Justin Fields than Kyler Murray personally.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I don't think either is like great. Maybe Justin Fields ends up being great. I don't doubt him.
yeah,
But
we'll
Kyler
see.
Murray's got some promise. Okay, he has to stay healthy.
Kyler
And
Murray's
he
made
does
the
need a
playoffs
line.
one
He
time.
does need an offensive line. Okay.
One time Kyler Murray made the playoffs.
Yeah,
and
he
y'all
ma-
got blown out
Okay, but he also
by
was coming
Stacey's
off.
Rams.
He was also coming off the foot injury though, and you saw how they were playing before the foot injury.
Okay.
They were heating up.
So what happened all the other years?
They did not have an offensive line, and they had a decent defensive line, which they get dismantled. Their secondary, their back seven, linebackers and everything. Like when they had a good defensive line, they didn't have a good back seven.
Yeah.
Now they have a good back seven and they have no defensive line. So
Yeah,
they
one
need to
step
figure
forward, one step back.
that. Yep.
All right.
Save the Cardinals talk for.
Yeah. Let's go to the last level here, which is the New York Rangers. We brought them up before on the show.
Yep.
What direction they should go. There were mixed feelings coming from all of us. Should they blow it up? Should they try to continue? Now, this is what happened before they went to All-Star break. And since we've talked about them last, they finished 5-4-1 their last 10 games. Right now, they're 21st in goals allowed. And we already know they extended Igor Shesterkin at their goalie, their top goalie. They acquired JT Miller from the Vancouver Canucks, who for a handful of number of years has been a great player.
Yeah.
They still got Chris Kreider, but they did trade away their captain. Also, they've been battling injuries too. Right now, they're a few points out of a playoff spot, out of a wild card spot. Should they break it up now? It's hard to tell because, like I said, they only a few games out, a few points out of the wild card spot. However, it seemed like that they can't gain traction in the standings. And there are like 3 or 4 teams ahead of them for that last spot. But the deciding factor for me, in which I think they should continue to try to push for the playoffs, because they traded for JT Miller. Like I said, he was a good player for the Vancouver Canucks. You still got some good pieces on the team. This team is talented.
Yeah.
They have the talent. They just missing the grit, the fight. And maybe health, maybe injuries were a thing where, they just couldn't, get consistency with that. But I think they should push forward just because they made that trade.
Yeah.
And then if it don't work, if they miss the playoffs at the end of the season, then blow it up, send everybody on their way. But it's tough because they in between a rock and a hard place right now. They in purgatory right now. And they have to depend on those teams that are ahead of them in the point standings to fall off a little bit. And those teams been playing a little bit better than the Rangers. So I think they should continue, but it's definitely going to be a tough road ahead for them. What you think the Rangers should do now?
Well, as 76ers and Steelers fans, I'm basically a purgatory expert. Like you mentioned, I feel like injuries are a pretty big component of why I think they should stay with the core that they have right now, along with the fact that they were a buyer with the move at the deadline. I feel like that's not a move you make if you're about to blow it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you mentioned, they're on the bubble for the playoffs. They still have a chance to make a run. Like maybe somebody else gets injured and they get hot at the right time. Like hockey, you never know what could happen in the last stretch of the year. And I feel like that they should keep the core together, reassess in the offseason if it doesn't get any better. And yeah, I feel like it's right now it's not bad enough to blow it up. So I think they should stick with the roster they got.
And before this recording come out, I do want to say they will play 2 games. They will play 2 games. So, I mean, they have the opportunity to gain some ground, but they got to do it rather quickly. What you think the Rangers should do?
I'm going to be honest. There's not a whole lot I can add to what you guys said because I completely agree. There's about 25 games left in the season. And yes, they're behind. They are, like you mentioned, 5-4-1 in the last 10. That's not super impressive. But getting JT Miller in this trade, they believe in themselves. They wouldn't make a trade like that if they didn't believe in themselves to make up that deficit of 3 to 4 points that they currently fall behind the Red Wings and the Ottawa Senators. So I think that they are looking for that momentum, that morale, that grit, and trading for a player like JT Miller might give him that. I mean, give them that. And JT Miller, he signed a 7-year, $56 million contract with the Canucks back in 2022. So he was committed for the long term. And it sounds like there was a rift between him and the Canucks. The relationship just fell off. And he was quoted in a press conference saying that he was crazy lucky to get traded, to the New York Rangers. So I think he's actually really excited to be there. The Canucks right now currently are in the wild card standings, but to go from a team that's in the wild card to a team that's just outside of it and to be excited, I think that should motivate the Rangers, especially for the caliber of player that JT Miller is. I don't see why they would blow it up. I think, like you said, Tommy, maybe go as hard as you can, reassess at the end of the year. That's what they should do. They're not out of it by any means yet.
Yeah, and I would say for JT Miller, he was a part of a Canucks team that were winning.
Yeah.
Like, people were talking about them being a Stanley Cup champion, but they did fold in the postseason. So he does bring a winning culture to the New York Rangers, and hopefully he could be some sort of captain, like a de facto captain for them the rest of the way.
Yeah.
They have about 25, 27 games left roughly. So they got a lot of work to put in. How do you feel? What's your first thoughts about them getting JT Miller, who's a star on this team? Were they in purgatory?
I mean, like we just said, I feel like it's a move that you would make if you're trying to go in the upwards direction, not the downwards direction. You know what I mean? Like, if you are trading away guys, then that means you're trying to look forward to the future. But if you're adding guys to your roster, then you're trying to go all in, like Teddy said. And I think that, like you said, he brings a championship DNA to a team that needs it. And I think that they are trying to go all in for this year. Whether or not they can do it, we'll see. But I do think that they have a shot if they can stay healthy and sneak into the playoffs, and you never know.
So you guys watched a Four Nations face-off?
Absolutely.
Or some of it?
I've seen a little bit.
Yeah, so I saw a little bit of it too. One thing that really interested me was Thomas Harley. Do you guys know who that is?
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with him, but he is actually a native of Syracuse, New York, but grew up also in Canada. He's a dual citizen.
Played for Canada.
And that's
I did not like that.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that he didn't get picked up by the U.S. team. He was actually, I believe, supposed to go on vacation with his wife to Cancun. Hopefully, don't quote me on that, but I think it was Cancun. And then the Canadian team called him up and said, "Hey, we need you. Can you come?" He dropped everything he was doing and got there to play for them. And he had a big part in that last matchup, the 3-2 overtime win against the U.S. to take the Four Nations face-off victory. He had that last assist to Connor McDavid in overtime. So just really cool how this Syracuse native, though he was on the rival team, made a big impact in the Four Nations face.
Sean McDonough, also a Syracuse guy, mentioned that on the broadcast last night. So
exactly.
Yeah, shout out to Syracuse. Shout out to Syracuse University.
Yeah. And I will say, Steelers and 76ers. Steelers, they've won 6 Super Bowls. Cardinals have won none. So I think, as also a Sixers fan and a Cardinals fan, I'm a purgatory expert too.
I mean, you're below purgatory. I don't want to say.
Oh.
I mean, but I'm just saying, we're always good enough to make
Empire State Sports Show, y'all. That heat, did y'all get that? We need that heat too. It's been cold as hell here in Syracuse.
Yeah.
But that's all for today. Thank y'all for watching. Follow us on Instagram, Empire State Sports Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. The boys upstairs, don't forget that. Stacy on Sports. Teddy, plug in your show that you've been working on recently.
Max Impact.
Max Impact. Follow that too. Thank y'all very much. We'll see y'all next time.
Like and subscribe.